What you
that
mean?
him running for president. I think
You don't think he's going to run?
No. I think they're going to get rid of him. I think they're going to move him out. They're going to force him to step down. That's what I think. If I had to guess, and it's just speculation, I'd say they're setting up Gavin Newsom for it.
Well, Buck Sexton may have the biggest radio show in the country, much bigger than mine, of course, Clay and Buck's show, but apparently Joe Rogan watches mine and not Buck's because Joe is agreeing with me. There's no way Joe Biden is going to remain. There's no way these people in power are going to risk that power on this dementia-addled old fool. Joining me now, Buck Sexton. Buck, it's nice that Joe Rogan, who I don't know and have never met, is such a huge fan of mine. Guess he doesn't know who you are, though, man. Sorry.
I mean, he's never had me on the show, so I don't think he does know who I am. But anyway, but he seems like a great guy. But he's very wrong on this. And that's the truth. There's no way. And I understand that the weight of the voices that are all making these claims. I mean, look, and some of them are among my favorite people in this business. Put you aside for a second. Carlson, Bill O'Reilly, yes, Jesse Kelly, Clay Travis. Clay is on the side of Jesse Kelly with this one. They all just say it's impossible that Joe Biden will be the Democrat nominee all the way through. Now, this, I just want to point out a few key facts. They won with John Fetterman. They managed to win a critical Senate seat with the Senate effectively up for grabs, running a guy who had had a massive stroke and couldn't speak English, okay? And they won convincingly. They won independence in that state. People have this idea that it's like we're running some Oxford debate society, and on the one side is Trump, on the other side is Biden, and whoever makes the most, compelling case to the American voter. This is about raw, bare-knuckled power when it comes to getting the votes you need in the places you need them, early voting, ballot harvesting, mail-in voting, the propaganda machinery of all that stuff, propaganda machinery of the Democrats. You bring all that together and you could elect a turnip as the Democrat. And that's basically what they're going to do again.
Okay, now, nothing you just said there was incorrect. I scream at my audience about this all the time, too, that it's not issues anymore or how unhappy the voter is with gas prices. It's all chasing ballots and all that crap now. It's all the ugly stuff. However, look, if you and I are having a foot race, and let's say you're a lot faster than me, which I'm sure you are because I'm the slowest person on earth, and you can beat me with a sprained ankle, that doesn't mean you want to beat me with a sprained ankle. You would still prefer to have two healthy ankles. I realize they know they can win with Joe, but they don't want to have to do that, especially when both political candidates, as everyone knows by now, doesn't matter how mad people get about this, both of them are unpopular. The approval and disapproval ratings of Trump and Biden are dreadful, not amongst the base of either of them, but amongst the general public. The general public doesn't like either of them. So the first party that says, I'm picking someone different wins.
Well, look, you have to think about who that would be, and we'll get into that in a second. I think one thing that's left out of all of this, and I'll admit, it's far more interesting to play the parlor game of like, well, what if The Rock runs, What if there's like a Harrison Ford Oprah ticket? Click, 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 click. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, Harrison Ford and Oprah? Unbeatable, right? Like who could, maybe they'll have, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle run. They'll change the Constitution so that, she's not a foreigner technically, but you get what I'm saying. No, this is crazy talk. And here's why. You're going to be running ads and spending a lot of money between now and the Democrat convention. Hundreds of millions of dollars going to be spent trying to soften up Trump's numbers and bring out Biden's numbers in these different states, the 8 states or so that are going to really matter, right? Then you're going to say in the summer, turns out all the Republicans have been right all along. Biden is a turnip. He is a vegetable. We cannot actually count on him to do anything. They were telling the truth when he's too old. And Kamala Harris, Jesse, it's a family show, so we're not going to ask for your Kamala Harris analysis. Kamala Harris is not up for the job either. He's just stepping out of it. He's like, I got nothing to say about Kamala Harris. And then you're going to take both of them. Basically, people say, "Oh, well, she can stay as vice president." No one stays as vice president if you jump over them to be president. That's crazy. So you're going to have that switch. So put that in mind, right? Like the machinery that would require, what you're losing with an incumbent president. People show up and they just vote Biden. They vote Democrat. They've been doing it for decades. And then who's this person going to be? I mean, there's Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is, you wouldn't surprise me if I found out he was from a foreign alien species of lizard people. Gavin Newsom is like, I'm not even sure he's fully human. Okay. He's not going to win in the swing states. Okay. But I don't want to, jump too far ahead of you on this one. All that other stuff.
No. No, those are good points. But to the first point you were making, I think maybe this is a big part you're discounting, and I am not. And granted, I admit there's a lot of guesswork I'm doing here. You brought up Fetterman and how he couldn't talk, and you brought up Biden's first campaign and how you remember they got caught with the cue cards behind the camera. It was really, really bad. Okay, so we got all that. You get it, I get it. I don't think that you're fully appreciating how badly Joe Biden is deteriorating. You can deteriorate to a point where you can't even do what they did for him the first time around. Look, you see what I see, Buck, and you know, I mean, it's a very horrible thing watching old people go through this. You know, when they go downhill, they go really, really fast. At some point in time, you can't hold Humpty Dumpty together anymore.
So this is the critical point. And, you and Clay agree, you see this the same way. So I'm having this fight with him all the time. But it's true what you're saying about the deterioration. I don't disagree with that at all. I think maybe they believe that they can just sort of pull them across the finish line and they'll deal with things later. However, it's what comes next. Let's just say that this wasn't even planned. If Joe Biden were to, in this summer, have a truly incapacitating stroke, Kamala Harris is the vice president in case of that happens, or that happening. And so then she becomes the nominee for the Democrats. The ticket stays the same. Everything, is marching along as they had planned all along. The part of this where everyone loses me is we're going to tell Kamala Harris, no, you've been the vice president this whole time, but you're not really the vice president. We're going to bring in some other person who we are sure is going to do so much better than you in these swing states that you're going to get pushed aside. Hope we don't tremendously offend the black female voters who are the absolute core and base and backbone of the Democrat Party in terms of votes. To me, it's crazy. The people of Gavin Newsom, this is insane. And I know everyone says, then they go, oh, well, Michelle Obama would. Michelle Obama hasn't had a job in 20 years. Nothing. No, not in politics, not in anything. I mean, she's been a mom, fine, that's a job, but she hasn't had a job where you have to actually manage people and be you know what I'm saying? Like, first lady is not a job. So I don't understand why anyone thinks that this is this would be an easy thing for them to pull off. To me, it's crazy. And also she doesn't want the job, which I know that's a talking point you hear a lot, but I've heard that really is true.
Yeah, I've heard it's true. I've heard it's not true. In fact, we have experts saying one thing, experts saying another. But you bring in Michelle Obama, she A, already has the presidential campaign infrastructure, and B, you solve your black woman problem, which was a very fair problem you brought up. If you just push Dome aside, you had better do something about all the angry black women out there. Michelle Obama washes away all those sins immediately.
I mean, I would give you, I don't know how else to put this other than, we got to put a bet on this one. Whatever the most expensive lobster and all you can eat scampi option is at Red Lobster, you are going to be, you're going to have to pay for it for me if I'm right, and put on my Red Lobster bib with a photo taken. Okay. I want Jesse Kelly doing the bib for me of Red Lobster. All you can eat scampi, my man. That stuff doesn't come cheap. So I'm trying to get you prepared for this. And I will make good on my side of the bet too. If you are right, you can go Alaskan crab legs. It's been a good year in radio. We could do Alaskan crab legs for you at Red Lobster.
I understand about that much of AI. It's way too intelligent for me, but I also understand that really, really bad people are creating it. and it's going to be our future. It's going to be involved in everything, and I want to know exactly what's going on. So joining me now, Senior Counsel for the Internet Accountability Project, and my friend Will Chamberlain. Okay, Will, everybody who's been looking at the news for the past couple days has seen this new Google AI, and there's some sort of controversy around it. Maybe you can update us to begin with on what exactly happened.
Yeah, so Google, like many other major tech companies, doesn't want to get left behind in the AI arms race. So they've been building their own language learning model, basically something you can just ask questions to and it will give responses. And those responses aren't like pre-programmed in. It's like the AI model scours the internet to try and understand the English language and understand information, and then so that it can respond to questions on its own. That said, because the AI is being still programmed by people, those biases of those people tend to find a way into the way the AI responds to questions. And in this case, the biases are those of incredibly woke leftist idiots, those people that Google hired. I mean, the guy who runs the Google AI program, it's called Gemini, is noted for on Twitter talking about how terrible white privilege is and how terrible white people are more generally. And as a result, you have an AI that can't function, that doesn't answer questions properly. So when you ask it, for example, to generate an image of a pope, it generates an image of a black pope. When you ask it to generate an image of white people, it says, no, we don't do that here. When you ask it to generate an image of anybody, like any other group, it just automatically inserts, we need to have a diverse image here, and then creates diverse images of groups of people where there may or may not have been any diversity in the first place, especially like when you think about, history where there would not, or historical examples from the far past where there wouldn't have been a diverse group of racial individuals, rather. So you have a very, 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 what it ends up being is a very stupid AI, an AI that can't respond to questions effectively. And I think it's sort of a microcosm of how DEI and wokeness makes us stupider as a general principle, right? This is a very, very good example of you program an AI with wokeness and DEI and it suddenly can't answer basic questions, whereas other AIs are perfectly capable of it.
Will, I don't know how concerned I should be about Google. I know this is a massively powerful company, and please tell me if I should be very concerned, but the concept of this in general concerns me. It concerns me the White House knows how important this is. They've already announced that they're going to get involved with AI, that it seems like the people who hate us the most are the ones creating this, and that's a problem, isn't it?
I mean, I think the problem is that AI is going to eventually replace search engines, right? It's going to be the way that most people sort of use as their portal to learning things and understanding things, and that includes our kids. Like if AIs are already this good in terms of basic responses to questions this year, and they're increasing in capability very quickly, then that'll be your sort of default way of interacting with the internet, I think. And if the default way of interacting with the internet and how you is asking questions and then getting woke responses in turn, so that sort of has deep implications for how our children will end up learning in the future. And so that's, I think, the big scary thing. I mean, the general, I think there's sort of an overblown sci-fi version where we need to be scared of AI taking over the world, like through Skynet or something. I don't think that's quite the right analogy here, because I mean, a language learning model is not going to take over the world, but these things are really about, education, and AI are going to be very, AI is going to be instrumental in how our kids are educated in the future. And we want AIs that are truth seeking. I mean, that's why Elon Musk is developing his own AI at X.
What exactly would have to happen to invoke the 25th Amendment in this country?
Obviously, in an ideal world, you would try to invoke the 25th Amendment, which I think is amply justified.
The man is deeply mentally unstable. The cabinet should convene immediately to discuss the 25th Amendment.
If he's crazy and incompetent and stupid, then we have to look at the 25th Amendment.
People in the president's inner circle have brought up the 25th Amendment at least 20 times.
This is 25th Amendment kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, I want to applaud West Virginia's AG, who's hopefully about to be their governor. I think he will, Patrick Morrissey, because he wrote a letter to Dome, Vice President Harris, and said, hey, it's time to do this 25th Amendment thing because our current president is non-functional. Joining us now, West Virginia's AG, Patrick Morrissey. Okay, Patrick, what's the deal with this letter?
Absolutely. So I think most of America a couple weeks ago saw what happened with the special counsel report. I think people were rightfully outraged because the special counsel report made it clear that President Biden would ultimately not be vulnerable in a criminal prosecution because he didn't have the mens rea, the mental state, the mental capacity to be successfully convicted of a crime. And when a lot of us saw that, we thought, wait a minute. How can you not have the mental capacity to be convicted of a crime, yet still function as the president of the United States? Either you're mentally capable enough to be president or you're not. And I think that this game that they're trying to play, that on one hand, he's incapacitated. On the other hand, he's perfectly good to be our commander in chief and discharge his duties. That is such an outrageous thing. And that's why I wrote the letter to the vice president urging her to invoke the 25th Amendment to bring the cabinet together, because the special counsel was clear in his reporting, and it would really be incumbent on President Biden to demonstrate that he is capable for the office. I don't think he is, and we need to really zero in on this inconsistency because I just think that he's not able to lead our country.
He's not. He's very clearly not. And you obviously have a very important position, a powerful position in the state of West Virginia. You understand all the duties that land on your desk every day. The president of the United States of America has to be the hardest working man in America. He can't be grandpa dementia and be on vacation 39% of the time. It doesn't work for the country. We need him.
Well, that's right. Can you imagine what happens if there's an international crisis that comes onto his lap? And what does a guy do that someone just described him as really mentally not capable of fulfilling his duties? It's a crazy place for us to be. And look, I'm no fan of Kamala Harris and her politics. No. And I think that the entirety of the Biden administration, as they're all hurting our country in so many ways. But at the end of the day, there are duties that people have when they believe that someone is unable to perform the duties of the office. And I think it very squarely comes up that this is a time when the 25th Amendment should be invoked. And that's why I put the letter out there. And I'm glad this is getting a good discussion nationally, because these are the kinds of things that we have to do. No one wants Kamala Harris, but this guy is certainly not fit to continue.
Joining me now, Congressman William Timmons of the great state of South Carolina. Congressman, one, credit to you for being one of the few who showed up. I understand it's vacation time and most did not, but you were there, we were not. What did you learn behind closed doors?
Well, I think we've all known that Jim Biden has always just been a hanger-on. He wasn't the brains behind the operation. It was Hunter. And, that was confirmed yesterday. He said repeatedly in regards to the millions of dollars they got from the Chinese Communist Party linked company CEFC, that he trusted Hunter. He trusted his judgment. He's a Georgetown and Yale law educated lawyer, and he was the more sophisticated party. And he is who Jim relied on for his willingness to do business with the CEFC. But this is the thing. CEFC is state-owned, state-adjacent, state-controlled. All Chinese companies are. That's just their system. And so it's ridiculous that they're trying to hide behind the fact that the CEFC is a private company. There's not a single person that has any knowledge about the Chinese government or the Chinese economy that would say that. So they know that that's not true. And we're going to get to ask Hunter some questions about it next Wednesday.
What is this company? What was this deal the Biden family set up with them?
All right, so this is the thing. The Chinese government uses their economy to extend their influence and power globally. CEFC was originally set up to take part in the Belt and Road Initiative, where the Chinese government loaned billions and billions and billions of dollars to foreign governments for infrastructure projects, for energy projects, whatever they were. And so the CEFC was basically getting free money from the Chinese government, and they would do deals with foreign governments. And most of those times, they would actually have to straight up bribe people because that's how it works in third world countries. But in the United States, they had to do something a little bit different. They couldn't straight up bribe governors and senators. They bribed the Bidens. And so Hunter and Jim Biden were paid millions of dollars to set up meetings and to influence blue state governors and senators. And there's an email where Jim Biden's talking about phase one. They're going to get out and they're going to influence the governor and the senators in New York and Minnesota and California and Virginia, New York City mayor, and they're going to use their connections to get the CEFC to compete in energy deals to provide energy to these states. And so, sure, they'll give millions of dollars here, millions of dollars to these Bidens. That's what they do all over the planet in developing countries. They literally straight up pay people because that's how it works. But in the United States, we actually have the rule of law and we have disclosure, financial disclosure. We have ethics requirements. Our system is different. And so that's why they hired the Bidens. And honestly, Jim Biden admitted to all that. He just alleges that CEFC is not controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. And I got to be honest, that's just nonsense.
Yeah, that's nonsense. What do we, and obviously Jim Biden, no one knows or gives a crap who this guy is. And the same thing with Hunter Biden, meaning the influence they have. Joe is the one with the influence. He's the one who's been the senator and vice president and now president of the United States. I still can't believe that. Either way, is there a direct connection, meaning a link that we can see or that we'll be able to see that says Joe was the one who was actually peddling the influence because he was the only one with influence?
All right, so one, I think it's important to realize that Jim Biden and Hunter Biden, over the last 20 years, probably 85 or 90% of their income comes from these foreign governments, whether it's China, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Russia. So this is their only job. And more importantly, they also have no relevant skill sets. Jim Biden didn't graduate college and has never had a successful operation outside of influencing using the Biden family name. Hunter Biden is addicted to crack. He's a drug addict. He has a sex addiction. He's a delinquent. He's a delinquent. So, I mean, these people are not businessmen. They're not consultants. They didn't provide services. They provided influence. So the question is, how do you link the president to this? And, you know, I think it's important for people to realize I don't really care about Hunter and Jim Biden. I care about whether the president of the United States, Joe Biden, is compromised because of his poor judgment associated with his son and brother's business dealings. That's what's important, because that's a national security threat. So the question remains, what did Joe Biden know and when? Clearly, his brother and his son were leveraging the Biden brand. Clearly, they were doing everything they could to enrich themselves off of his public service. So the question becomes, what did he know and when? And how much money did he make? We know that Jim Biden gave him $200,000 and $40,000 as loan repayments. I'm going to say loan repayments in quotes. We still don't have evidence that Joe Biden ever actually gave money to Jim Biden, and we're going to get to the bottom of that. But again, we also know that Hunter Biden has paid for a lot of things with Joe Biden. He had an office after he left the vice president's office in the CEFC building. I mean, look, we're going to get to the bottom of this. The American people deserve answers. And let me finish with this. I'm a lawyer. I'm a member of Congress. I'm a member of the Oversight Committee. I was a white-collar prosecutor for 5 years. I don't trust the Department of Justice to do the right thing. I don't trust the FBI. I don't trust these rogue prosecutors in New York and Atlanta, these partisan hacks. And if I don't trust those people, the American people don't trust those people. So what the Oversight Committee right now is doing is restoring the trust of the American people. We are actually following the evidence. We're using the appropriate mechanisms to get to the bottom of this. And that's what we have to do. Our country's future depends on it, because if the American people don't trust our institutions, we're lost. You're 100% right about that. We are lost without that trust being regained.
Now, at the end of this long road you're traveling down, and I'm glad you're traveling down it, exposing all these people, there has to be some sort of accountability. It doesn't look like the numbers are going to be there for impeachment. So where does that leave us at the end of all this? Not that there's not value in exposing it. I'm glad you're exposing it, but what can actually be done, or what will be done?
I have not given up hope on possibly voting on impeachment. Again, the deposition next Wednesday is going to be critical. What Hunter Biden says will determine whether the president is impeached. And he's going to plead the fifth to half of everything that we ask him. But the question becomes, what can we learn foundationally that he can't plead the fifth on? And that's what we're going to be spending our time on over the next few days. The crazy part is even by the Department of Justice's special prosecutor own standard, can we even impeach Joe Biden if he lacks the mental capacity to create the mens rea, the criminal intent to be guilty of a crime? I can't really emphasize enough how ridiculous it is that the Department of Justice determined that the President of the United States lacks the mental capacity to be charged with criminal activity that they acknowledged occurred, but that they couldn't prove the mens rea, the criminal intent necessary to convict him. What in the world is going on? So theoretically, if the Department of Justice says he doesn't have the mental capacity to be guilty of a crime, I mean, I could make an argument that makes it harder to impeach him. But I also don't believe that. I believe that this Department of Justice is, I don't want to use the word corrupt because there's a lot of really good, hardworking people at DOJ, but it has been politicized. It is protecting the abundant criminal activity of the Biden family while also persecuting Donald Trump and his family. It's just, President Trump says it right. We're in a banana republic, and this election in November is going to determine whether we have a country after this. And that's why it's so important. And again, I'm just following the evidence, and we'll see where it takes us.
We're really excited to announce we are making a brand new children's
Iggy, what are you doing?
Sorry, I was just getting ready for the big announcement. The treehouse isn't going to build itself. Did you tell him yet? Did you?
No, we haven't told him yet. Would you just like to tell him yourself, Iggy?
What, little old me? Tell everyone one of the most amazing, most important, most groundbreaking announcements ever recorded in the history of the world? That's a lot of pressure. What if I mess up? There are probably millions of people watching me right now.
You can do it, Iggy. I believe in you.
Okay, here it goes. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and squirrels. We're teaming up with Brave Books to make, drumroll please, a kids' TV show called Adventures with Iggy and Mr. Kirk. Yay!
Reminds me of my childhood when you could turn on shows. Well, my mom, if I'd stayed home sick from school, she could just turn on shows, a cartoon channel, and walk out of the room and just know that I'll probably learn values and things from it. It's honestly, it made me kind of sad. I'm thrilled it's there, but it made me sad remembering a different time. Joining me now, obviously the man, the host of that, Kirk Cameron doesn't need me to introduce him, the host of the news show, Adventures with Iggy and Mr. Kirk. Kirk, I know that's a weird way to introduce you in the show, but honestly, watching it, it made me long for a time that's not that ancient. I'm not 80. It made me long for my childhood when I could watch something like that.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. We used to watch Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and so many great cartoons, and it's those things are like a thing of the past. You look at Coco Melon, you look at Sesame Street, you look at Blue's Clues, and they've gone so woke that we have an increase in New Jersey of over 4,000% of children who are identifying as non-binary in the last couple of years. I mean, just nuts because they're identifying with these characters. It was funny, the thing that came to my mind when you said you remember the times when you were at home with your mom and you're watching a TV show, and now we live in a day that's so different. I know, it's like partly because of the stories that we're showing our kids and reading to our kids. We have kids who grow up and now they're 30 and 40 years old still at home with their mom, watching TV shows and playing video games on the couch in the living room. And I think it has a lot to do with the values that we're putting into our children at a young age. It's been going on for a long time. It's time that we pull back the reins and take hold of our children's future. That's what we're trying to do with this new show that combines biblical moral values with timeless lessons that parents can trust in an entertaining format with animation, high energy, hilarious dialogue, and guest stars at every turn. I think it's going to be a game changer.
I think it is too, and I treasure this so much for young families out there. Kirk, I get emails to this show, my radio show, all the time of, Jesse, I can't watch anything with my kids. People don't even turn on their TV. One family emailed me last week, they threw out their TV. They said, I can't turn on anything with my kids. What's the point of even having it?
If we chucked our, look, I make my living a career in television, but if we chucked our TVs out the window, that could be the best thing that we ever do. If we could take our phones and get rid of them, in many ways, we would be so much healthier. Now, I'm not recommending it. I use my phone every day, all of that stuff. However, we have technology and abilities that we don't have the moral capacity to handle as a society. And I don't think that means get rid of technology. It means increase your moral capacity. Understand what's important and right, especially when we have sacred duty as parents and grandparents, and train ourselves and our children how to stick with the values and principles that are going to lead to blessing and liberty and protection. Otherwise, it's going down the toilet and it's nobody's fault but ours.
Kirk, before I actually ask you about that in particular, I know everyone wants to know, first of all, how can people watch this now? There are so many young families who watch this show.
Yeah.
How do they watch this? They want entertainment like this. What do they have to do?
So to watch Adventures with Iggy and Mr. Kirk, you just need to know that it's going to be free. It's coming out on YouTube. It's coming out on Rumble. It's not going to be hard to find. What we're doing is we're actually making the show now, and we're building an army of people that are helping us make it happen. So because it's not being funded by Hollywood or Netflix or some big streaming platform, we have to raise the money ourselves to create this, kind of like The Chosen did, right? You don't want Sony to make The Chosen, or you don't want some big company tied to BlackRock and Vanguard to make the show, because it's likely going to sabotage the values. So they had the audience chip in the dollars to make it so that it can stay in the hands of the people who care. So we're asking people through Brave Books to join this fundraiser and help us raise the money for 20 episodes of this free television program. We've got enough funding for almost 2 episodes now, and you can go to watchbrave.com. That's watchbrave.com. And you can support us and get in on some of these great rewards, like getting 2 tickets to the red carpet premiere of Adventures with Iggy and Mr. Kirk in Nashville. And we got a really cool after party where you can hang out with us and ask all kinds of questions and celebrate. You can also get one of your kids or grandkids in one of the episodes of the television program. So there's all kinds of great rewards, but we need to raise the funds for it. And that's what Brave Books is doing. And I'm leaning in and doing my part as Mr. Kirk and getting the word out right now.
Yeah, I'm in. I'll be making a donation about the time that we hang up from this interview. 100% in. Kirk, social media, the phones you brought up, the technology, the endless wave of filth that comes at us these days from so many different ways that you and I didn't have to deal with, honestly, when we were younger. How does a young family, a Christian family, you want to raise your children with their eyes focused on the right things, how do you deal with the balance? Because I understand, honestly, that you can move to the mountains and cut off all electricity, and you can honestly live a much more pure life, but we can't pull ourselves out of society that's full of darkness anyway. We have to be in it. So what's the balance? What do you do as a parent with your children?
Yeah, I'm learning this as I go. I'm going to be a grandfather soon, and things are worse now than they were when my kids were little and we gave them phones. No. I even made a documentary about this, but things are changing so rapidly. So I'm not an expert in it, but what I do know is this. There is nothing in the world that will replace a mom and dad and grandparents' time invested connecting with your children and establishing a real relationship with them that is built on love and grace. Your kids are going to mess up with the phones. As long as there's technology out there, they're going to find a way to access porn. or they're going to access people or friends who have a phone who do have inappropriate stuff on there and go down rabbit holes that is likely going to be inevitable unless you're Amish and you live, in a walled off community and you're not having access to that. Even then, I still think they're going to get access to it. So what do? Understand that living in relationship with God and setting an example for your kids that is genuine and sincere, letting them know that you struggle with the same things they struggle with, and that we're all learning together, and we have a hope, we have a North Star, we have an anchor for our souls that can give us power to rise up above these things, and give them a hunger and thirst for what is good and true and beautiful and right, by letting them see how that in you produces a superior way of living. And as you stay in relationship with them, teach them how to use the phone, teach them how to use the computer, get all of the locks and the controls that you can put on there to protect them. We've got to do all of that. But in the end, I don't think there's a quick fix. I think it has to do with relationship, has to do with genuine, authentic living, and teaching them the truth so that they love it. Because what they really need is they need to download a filter that is much stronger than anything Google or Apple can provide. It's called the fear of the Lord and a love for righteousness and goodness and beauty and truth. Once they have that, they'll filter the stuff out themselves like a good, mature, God-fearing adult can do. That's what we're ultimately shooting for, because when they turn 18, all the filters come off anyway. They got to be able to handle all this stuff on their own with internal filters. You're putting your kids together to give them away. So start training them now. Put the controls on and slowly start taking them off as you transition responsibility to them.